Jim's here with me now. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm okay. Welcome back to Toronto.
It's always exciting. Here's what I mean, I love Canada for many reasons. But, the irony is, like, I think that Canadians really kind of have over succeeded when it comes to junk food. I mean, there's nothing more kind of unhealthy than poutine, right?
It's delicious.
I mean, how do you pronounce it? It's
Poutine. You don't want to mispronounce it because it
Some
means
people say
something else in
poutine.
French.
Poutine.
You don't want to say that.
Really?
Yeah, you just don't.
Because when I was I was in poutine. I was in Ottawa for I think in April, and they were having their poutine festival. They were having their second of the year poutine festival, which means like they got done with it and they're like, hey, why don't we do this again? And there was their second one, and I went and visited because I support the local economy. And I had, I think it was a triple bacon poutine, and I was eating it, and I actually heard my heart say, "Are you mad at me?" Because poutine it's irresponsible.
What?
I mean, I eat unhealthy, but poutine, it's just like, what are you guys trying to do?
Okay, but wait a minute. You're calling poutine irresponsible, in quotes I'm putting that, because Hot Pockets, very responsible?
Hot Pockets are ridiculous. They're absurd. They're disgusting. They're like a Jamaican.
Irresponsible.
But every culture has their own kind of meat pie, right? And, of course, Americans, we have to, find the worst one. But, but I mean, it's just like when it comes to junk food, I just think that poutine is pretty hysterical. I mean, it's delicious, but it's like, cheese curds. Okay, I'm a fan. Gravy, I'm not sure why, but I love it. I mean, I love everything about poutine, but I'm just saying it is, it's why you have national health insurance, right? I mean, right? I mean, that's
yes,
one
Tommy
of the primary
Douglas.
reasons.
Tommy Douglas decided that we should have national health insurance.
Kiefer Sutherland's grandfather.
Yes.
I know everything.
Listen, you apparently do, and apparently
Yes.
when you landed in Toronto, you tweet.
Yes, I love
more
to tweet.
maybe more than you eat.
We're
You tweet.
we're Twitter buddies. You and
We're
I.
not. You haven't followed me yet.
I'm gonna
but
follow.
okay.
It's hard to follow women on Twitter because it's like if you follow. I'm married, I don't want my wife to be like, "Why are you following
So
that
am
woman?"
I.
know.
But it's Twitter.
It's so weird. Why do you have your hand on my knee?
Okay, speaking of people
Yes.
you've met, so you landed in Toronto
Yes.
last night. I followed you on Twitter.
Yes.
And you're in a hotel room.
Yeah.
And you say, hey, I'm in Toronto, so obviously I order rigatoni.
Right. Well, some of that is I was in a hotel room and I just thought that I would live tweet my room service order. So I was trying
Including
to
the
be funny about
server,
it.
Vlad. How's
Yes,
he doing?
Vlad was all right. He was good. He was a good kisser. No, Vlad was a nice, guy who was the room service guy who was from the Ukraine who probably has no idea that I tweeted about him for like an hour. But he was a perfectly nice room service guy. And I gave him an extra tip because they have that 15% built in because they went through the effort of taking the elevator up with your food. So why not charge 15%? I gave him an extra tip.
How much?
I gave him, I think, $5.
Okay. That's
There you
fair.
go.
I'm
I'm
going to start
generous.
giving you room service if you tip like that.
Bring by food.
Okay, I want to talk to you about food because
Yes.
it's important to you.
It's very important.
What's the I mean, I know you've eaten food
Yeah.
since you were born. I get that.
Yeah,
But what's the
yeah.
genesis of your interest in food?
I think as a comedian, I was drawn to it because food is such a universal topic. Like you don't have to spend a lot of time explaining it, and there's also it's relatively indecisive. So I mean, indivisive. So or non-divisive, whatever the word is.
Divisive,
I'm only
yeah.
in or divisive. And so you're not gonna lose a lot of people if you go after shellfish or something like that, or you attack Hot Pocket. There's like there's just if you're that offended by a Hot Pocket joke, you're really crazy, right?
And as you're eating Hot Pockets or whatever
Yes.
else is in your culinary repertoire, are you thinking, hey, this is funny and I can turn that into a joke?
It's strange, This book, Food Love Story, it's mostly kind of topics that I've compiled over 20 years of doing stand-up that a lot of it didn't make it into my stand-up act. And a lot of it was just a kernel that I turned into an essay with my wife. And so, yeah, some of it is I'll sit down and I'll be eating something and I'll say, this is just, I mean, human beings, we're just weird anyway.
Some of us more than others.
Right. No, I mean, it's just strange what we're eating and why we eat it and how we're, like we look at other cultures and we think they're weirdos for eating that. And then when you make a chicken soup that's healthy, you're supposed to use chicken feet in it. It's like you can't look at the Chinese as eating something strange if we're doing just a different type of strange.
Now, you have a particular beef with healthy food. For instance, you have a chapter, it's called Nobody Really Likes Fruit.
Yes, nobody does.
I do. But
I
anyway.
mean, you think you do. You think you do, Piya. But you like fruit as it is compared to vegetables. That's the only reason people like fruit. You like it because, sure, it's got pretty colors and everything, but you'd still prefer ice cream. You'd still prefer, like, real delicious things. I mean, I also think that there's a fruit propaganda. I don't think a strawberry has ever lived up to expectations. I think that bananas are good. I think that, like, a lot of the melon stuff, like cantaloupe and honeydew, it's garbage. No one's ever liked it. Everyone's kind of like, they get it in the morning or it's served with prosciutto. So they're like, hey, all right, fine. It's just bland. And I think, and that's why I'm running for prime minister. I want to get rid of the fruit in Canada. I want to get back to our poutine culture.
You also, you particularly don't like apples.
Well, I just think that no one's liked fruit for a long time. That's why.
Since the beginning of time, according to you.
Well, no, I would say for the past couple hundred years. And you can see that. That's why there's so many paintings of just bowls of fruit, because, you could start painting a bowl of fruit. You could leave for a couple hours, you come back. No one would have touched the fruit. But Piya, if you're painting a donut, you better finish it on the first stab. Because if you even take a bathroom break, that donut's gone. That's why, like, Tim Hortons, there's not a lot of paintings of donuts in there. And Tim Horton is a personal friend of mine.
Oh. Hey, you're hawking. That's not true. And I want to ask you about kale, because kale, of course, has been somewhat trendy.
Yeah.
You don't like kale?
No, well, my issue is, there is just these constant health trends, right? And it's kind of silly. And what our parents considered healthy, we kind of look at as kind of silly. My mom and my sisters would eat cottage cheese. They would eat a tub of cheese curds and believe that it was healthy. And it's really not. And so kale, which I understand it's good for you, and it should. I mean, it is like it's a bag of leaves, right? I mean, it's yard work. It should be it should be better for you than like a bowl of ice cream, but it tastes like bug spray. And supposedly, they could, I mean, I think they could find out kale cures cancer, and I would still just do the chemo. Because it's not that, I've tried kale. I don't know how bad the chemo is. I don't mean to be so insensitive about that.
So, are you a foodie? Like, is that how you?
No, I'm not a foodie.
No, what are you?
I am. Well, I don't have anything against foodies. I understand, and when this book first came out and when we were first writing it, I didn't realize the food culture, that it was so out of control that there is. I knew about Yelp, but I don't. A foodie is someone that really. They want to understand the science behind why something tastes good. And I'm just not that bored with food. I just want the closest, best meal, right? Like, I don't want to do research. I'm lazy. So, like, I'll just turn to someone and I'll say, all right, I'm in Toronto. Where should I get curry? That's all I want to do. I don't want to sit there and read articles. I'm anti-reading. And
good thing you wrote a book.
No, that's the irony.
You got a gaggle of children. You got
Yes.
you got 5,
I
you got this.
I haven't talked to my wife in an hour, so there might be more.
Okay, and you and your wife and your 5
Yes.
children. So the 7 of you.
Yes.
Until recently, lived in a 2-bedroom apartment.
Yes. We
in Manhattan.
moved to a 1-bedroom apartment. and we're going to move every year to a smaller and smaller place.
No, you've upgraded. You've gone from a 2-bedroom.
Yes.
What are you now, in a mansion?
No, we're in a loft that my wife has kind of designed. It was gutted, and I mean, she didn't gut it herself. She had the kids to help. And no, but it was designed so that we can have space for all these kids. I should meet some of them. There's a lot of them.
There are a lot of them. And as you are raising these children, who are all still quite young, and as a parent, because you are one of those, and you talk a lot about this, do you worry about your kids about what they eat, particularly when they're not at home? Or are you guys just like hitting those microwave buttons on Hot Pockets and say, hey, kids, it's supper time?
No, my wife is, I wrote this book with my wife, and the great irony is this book is my point of view, and it's an exaggeration. I mean, I would love to eat bacon all day, but you just can't. But my wife is a pretty healthy eater, and she also wanted to put a disclaimer at the end of the book saying this is no way to lead your life. But my wife is very health conscious. Like, she buys the bread that I think is made of sawdust. At least that's what it tastes like. So no, they eat very healthy.
You just do your own thing.
I mean, I eat healthy when I'm with them, but when I'm not with them,
you eat at the Scottish joint at McDonald's.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I travel a lot, so I do. But my whole thing is, like, I don't think it's the worst thing to occasionally eat at McDonald's. And by the way,
what do you mean by occasionally?
Well, let's say you're with your kids. You've got 3 kids, and you're driving for 3 hours. If you stop at McDonald's on the way, is that the worst crime? I mean, that's I go on in that act. I go in, it's a guilty pleasure. It's not the worst crime anyone's ever committed. And so I don't think it's that big of a deal to eat at McDonald's. But culturally, at least in the States, it's like, there's like a snobbery. There's this, everyone should be only eating, grass-fed and farm-fed, like only chickens that had corn. It's just absurd. I'm not proposing that we only eat McDonald's, but I'm just saying, let's be realistic here. Anyway, I'm a great guy. That's what I'm saying.
You talked about spending a lot of time on the road and finding yourself at various fast food joints. Yeah. That's just part of your biz.
Yes.
Yeah, you just got to pick up what's ever there.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm in a lot of airports, and and I don't know if it's hard to eat healthy in an airport. It's changed a lot. I mean, one time I was in the South Bend Airport in Indiana, which is something. It's a place everyone should go because it was designed by Stalin. But it's hard to eat healthy. I saw an apple, and I was like, oh, I guess I'll get that apple, and I realized it was just a decoration. Like, it's hard to eat healthy when you travel, right? You can either have a delicious, horrible for you burger, or you can have a salad that sat in a refrigerator for 15 hours. So it's a difficult task. And when I am in the airport, I feel as though I'm always in the security line, and I'm always behind that person that's never left their house before. They always want to ask me questions like, "Can I bring soup on the plane? It's homemade soup. Can I bring soup?" I'm like, "You got to ask that guy. For an ID, can I use a fishing license?" I'm like, "You got to ask that guy. Should I take off my shoes and my pants?" Yes, you should take off your pants. But I spent a lot of time in airports, and they're like museums of boredom. So you end up eating. At least I do. I have a strange thing. Like, when I get in an airport and I go through security, I have to get food. Like, the plane is going to crash in some place where there's no food.
Or you might be stuck on the tarmac for like several hours and you get hungry and there's nothing to eat. I think that's a legitimate reason to pack up a lot of food. By the way, I'm that person in front of you at the airport.
You're like, how do I do this?
Yeah.
Does the bag, is it okay?
Do I have to take off my shoes?
Do I do that?
Here's my Tim
Should
Hortons.
I take off every piece of jewelry? This is a leather wristband. Do I take that off? Yes.
Okay, you are clearly obsessed with food. And,
yes.
And for that, I really like you, but I want you to sort of weigh in on why are we so obsessed with food culturally now?
I think, I'm just guessing, but...
Based on your extensive research that you do.
I think as as we evolve as human beings, we realize we can't smoke, we can't drink as much as, I mean, this isn't Scotland. We can't we can't do the excessive drinking. So there's food is our outlet maybe, and how we treat ourselves. I mean, it's always culturally, it's like like Mexicans love food. And I wish I was Mexican because that's like amazing, right? But I think Mexicans have always appreciated food. So like, you don't need a lot of money to have great food. And so I don't know. It's weird because culturally, both Canada and the United States, we're started by the English, and they have like the worst food on the planet. Like they were literally so drunk that they were like, I don't know what to eat, Anyway, I'm trying to alienate people.
I was trying to separate us all. Do you think you have a healthy relationship with food, despite you talking about Hot Pockets?
Absolutely not.
No,
I mean, I have.
Like, is this emotional for you?
Yeah, I think there's some of it. I think I got done with this book, because it's 330 pages.
It's a lot about food.
Where there's essays on crackers. There's like 25 pages on cheese. And I got done with it, and I was like, wow, I have a problem. Like, I had a friend who came and saw me do a show in Montreal, and he was like, you talk about food like a morbidly obese person, like people that wouldn't be able to leave their apartment. And so, yeah, there is something unhealthy there. But my comedy is very much an exploration of the like what we would want to do, but we censor ourselves. Like, we want to sit around and just watch television all day, but we don't. We want to, just eat bacon in bed, but we can't.
I'm glad you raised bacon, because you talk about bacon in this book. And as you know, we Canadians have a special relationship.
I mean, you guys have your own bacon. It's, again, I did no research for this book because that's the kind of person I am. It's literally based on conversations I had with people. And the bacon thing is very interesting because it's different cuts of bacon, right? The Canadian bacon is different from what the strip bacon, and it's a different kind of.
It's good you're explaining this.
I don't,
Well, the Americans are listening. They may not know that we have different bacon,
and so
which we call back bacon.
You call back bacon,
yeah.
And so when I was there's again research. Someone told me that you guys call the strip bacon American.
We just call that bacon.
You just
we
call
don't
it bacon.
give you props.
But you call it Canadian bacon.
Well, we call it back bacon.
You call it back bacon? So we're the only ones that call it Canadian bacon.
Well, you and people who make movies call it Canadian bacon, yes.
Yeah. And so, like, anyway, my point is...
Like, no one goes to a restaurant here and says, hey, I'd like some fried eggs with Canadian bacon.
Really?
They just say, I'd like fried eggs with bacon.
That's weird.
What?
Well, it's fascinating. Because there's also... And then the bacon in England and Ireland... It's like they got to cook that longer. You know what I mean?
Sort of meaty.
Yeah, it's a little bit like, I mean, I feel like I'm in like a scene from the Civil War. It's like, let's cook this bacon some more. And but what they're eating for breakfast in other cultures, I don't understand. I really don't understand. They're like the deli tray thing. Do you guys do that here?
Like when you have a party and there's a deli tray?
That's what I would think, right? But in some cultures, like I was in Stockholm, went down to breakfast, they have like a tray of deli meat. They do that in England too. There's like, at breakfast, there's a tray of deli meat. Like someone wants to wake up and have a piece of bologna. It's like, who's catering this? A fraternity? It's strange. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about. I think we might do that here. I don't know. I walked past the deli tray. I only got a couple minutes left, and I got a couple things that I want to ask you. One is, what's the worst thing you've ever eaten?
I was in Iceland, and they have some pretty amazing. I think it's like kind of a tourist stunt, some of these food. But I had sheep's head, which was bad. No, which tastes amazingly similar to a sheep's head. And then they have some kind of shark thing that is. I didn't even have a bite of it because you open it and the smell is supposedly, legend is that it's fermented in urine. Good morning, everyone. But that's in Iceland.
Uh-huh.
And so that's some pretty bad food. That's some pretty bad food.
Okay, we've spent like 20 minutes talking about food, and
yes.
I mean, is this what you continue to do as you build your career? It's already soaring, but as you continue on, do you continue to focus on food in your act?
I think that my last comedy special was called Obsessed, and it was kind of this admission, like, all right, I'm obsessed with food. That's what it's about. And I feel like I've gotten through a lot of the topics. Like, it's not like I can go back to going out to dinner. Like in my new hour that I'm doing right now, there's some food, but I've kind of touched on a lot of topics. It's getting to the point where, my wife and I, we write everything together, and we always want to steer away from food, but it's just so easy
you have to
to
find
talk
a new
about
obsession.
food. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's always something fun to do. Like, on Twitter, someone mentioned something. They're like, hey, in Winnipeg, are you going to have, curry? Are you going to have this? Are you going to have pho, which is...
Yeah, Vietnamese.
And I have no idea what pho is. Oh. So I'm like, all right, that's another topic.
Well, maybe. And as a tribute to Vlad, maybe you should eat some pierogies.
I love pierogies.
There you go.
Love pierogies.
There you go. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Pleasure. Have fun in Toronto. Jim Gaffigan's new book's called Food, A Love Story. He's speaking tonight, if you're in Toronto, at the Toronto International Book Fair. Jim was here live in Studio Q without food.